The Coach Curl podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to episode 161 of the Coach Curl podcast. Those 2 years became the best 5.5 years. What am I talking about? You'll find out.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul. I see you. All right, John. Finish on. Coach Curl. Great job, guys.
Coach Curl, we love you!
Hey there, and welcome, and thanks for listening. It's Tony here, and welcome to episode 161 of the Coach Curl podcast. A special shout out and a special thank you to all of those listeners that provided me some feedback on getting the episode number wrong on episode 160. Yes, I know I should have said 160, but what did I say? I said 159, I think. So probably gives you a little bit of a highlight into how much prep sometimes goes into what it is that I'm going to talk about. You know, I really want this podcast to be as authentic as possible. And seriously, just in relation, I've got a cup of coffee here, so I really just want you to think about this podcast being me and you sharing a cup of coffee, and just allowing me to share some thoughts and opinions. Every now and again, of course, I'm going to have a guest on, but mostly it's just me sharing some thoughts, some practices, some systems that have worked for me, and hopefully being able to add some real value into what it is that you do with where you're heading, with the potential that you have. So that's the style of podcast that resonates with me. So I'm hoping that it is. We've got some loyal listeners out there, so hopefully there is a little bit there for everybody. So, you know, every now and again I get it wrong. I'll stumble over some words. I'll yell out the wrong episode number. But you get the podcast warts and all. And to me, that's the beauty. It's not polished. It's not scripted. It's not structured. Well, I suppose there is some structure. But it's just me sharing my thoughts. It's sharing my opinions. And last week I shared, what a great segue that was. Last week I shared my thoughts around a mate called Jeff, who we celebrated his life on Tuesday of last week. And it was a short life. He was just 1 year older than myself. And I spoke about that on the episode 160 of the Coach Curl podcast. And as always, funerals allow some self-reflection and some quiet time for some self-awareness. And I took the adage from Jeff's memorial service that we must live every day in a way that they become part of what we may term later on down the track our good old days. So it's about living today well. And when you live today well, you create something of meaning, you create something of value. And that value for us, not only from a future sense, but also when we think back in the future to what it is that we did. So today's it's about living today well, isn't it? It's about living today strong. And if you do that for even 90% of the days that you're here, you're going to have a great life. Now, I met Jeff in Townsville when I was an early 20-something, and I was transferred up there with the retailer that I was in. I was transferred to North Queensland. And in those days, the expectation was that you do a country stint. You want to go regional, and you were to spend 2 years up there if ever you wanted to go on to bigger and brighter and better things. Now, that was that was almost an obligation. It was almost a requirement, but we all knew it was something that we needed to do if we really wanted to forge a career that was going to be lucrative. It was going to be great for us. So, and I was single. I was in my early 20s, and I was heading up there to do a job, but I was also heading up there to enjoy my stay, to live in a place where I hadn't lived, getting out to see the countryside, the beauty that is North and far North Queensland, being part of the community. So Jeff was one of the first people that I connected with when I was up there, and he became, during my stay there, and during he left a couple of years before I finished my stint, but a confidant, a mentor, and a friend, and it was a real honour for me to know him. But the biggest life change for me that came from my stint in Townsville was the fact that those 2 years became 5.5 years. You know, I met my beautiful wife up there, Sharon. We bought our first house. We had our firstborn, a son who's grown up to be a magnificent young man, Tim. And all of those milestones in my life occurred in my so-called inverted brackets 2-year country stint. Now, my 2-year country stint became very much a 5.5-year stint, but I was welcomed into Sharon's family, and it was a big family, it was a huge family, and I really became accustomed to the North Queensland lifestyle. I was happy, I was content, and I was comfortable. And as we know, happiness is a bit of a choice that we make. But those concepts of being content and being comfortable can sometimes lead us into trouble. You know, and in all certainty, I probably could have stayed up there forever. You know, I fished, I didn't surf. There's not a lot of surf in North Queensland unless you want to head out to the reef. I started coaching junior rugby league up there, and for all purposes, was building my life to be a North Queenslander. And in many ways, those 5.5 years set up and created a foundation for my life moving forward. And as I said, I really could have stayed there, except for a pivotal moment in my life where a manager came up that believed in who I was and the potential that I had. So while I was happy, content and comfortable, I was only, and I say only, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but I was holding down a mid-level management role in the retail company that I worked for. You know, and ultimately I always had aspirations, hence the reason why I went up there in the first time, to become, you know, not only a store manager, to move into the concept of looking after districts or potentially states. But one day my district manager, Ray, came into the store. He was up there on a regional trip, and I was called in to see him, and often that just didn't happen. Ray would talk to us out on the floor, but it was very rare that he would say, "Come in, let's have a chat." And remember, I was pretty happy, content and comfortable, and really I was nervous because of that. You know, what's all this about? You know, I'm a little bit nervous. But he asked me one simple question. And in that moment, he ultimately changed my destination. He asked me, he said, "Tony, have you ever considered becoming a store manager?" Which was probably the next, like the next step up for me. And now, of course, I told him I did. It was always part of my goals. It's part of my dream. I wanted to be a store manager. And in those days, the store manager in that particular company probably had a leadership team around him of about 6 and a frontline team of about 100. So this isn't a job for the faint-hearted. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of operational nous involved. There's logistics involved. So it was going to be a challenging role, but it was something that I'd set myself up to do. And in some ways, I'd lost sight of that. Now, a promotion to a store manager would also would have involved a pretty good pay rise and a company car. So some pretty cool incentives there. So, of course, I was interested, Ray. I wanted to be a store manager. And I really must say that I probably suppressed that career ambition due to that sense of comfort. But it was just that one question that got me thinking again. And then in good old Ray style, he mentioned the next statement. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. And it was one that just knocked me down. He said, well, it's not going to happen up here in Townsville. Okay. So, do you want to become a store manager? Of course I do, Ray. Yes. Well, it's not going to happen up here. And with that comment, my 2-year stint, extended to 5.5 years, was almost over. So just 3 months later, I accepted a promotion back to Brisbane. We sold our first house. We packed up, my wife, who was born and bred in Townsville, and my son, who I think was like just up past the age of 2. And we moved back I moved back to Brisbane and they moved to Brisbane. So there was no back in their mindset. It was all to. And that first year was really, really tough. It was tough at times, but because of that and because of so many factors, my wife was always an amazing woman, but she became strong and resilient. And both of my kids, Taylor was born in the year we moved back, have benefited from having a wide range of friends down here in Brisbane, as well as the cousins of the extended family that we left behind in Townsville. But they've grown up to be 2 incredibly beautiful kids, well-adjusted and fully functioning, which, as a parent, you've got to have some pride in. So those 2 years became the best 5.5 years, but the years that have followed have been even better. Okay? Have been even better. Because I am now who I am based on what I've experienced and learned through life. And now that concept of being content and comfortable, I try and challenge myself every single day on what that means to me. Because I don't ever want to get so content, so comfortable that I'll lose sight of what could be the best me. Now, as I said, happiness is a choice and an attitude in many, many ways, but getting comfortable exists purely for us to get uncomfortable. Okay? I hope you're taking this on board. Getting comfortable exists purely for the action, for the behavior, for us to get uncomfortable. So when you've been in a place of comfort and being content with that, it's often that time that you need someone to shake you up and to give you a bit of a brushing down, for want of another word, in case that you're unable to shake yourself up. So you need someone to shake you up. So shake yourself, get up, give up the good, and go for the great. Because I love Townsville. I love the people that were there. And I was happy, I was content, I was comfortable. And it was good. But if I'd stayed there, I wouldn't have my coaching business. I wouldn't have spoken on stages around the world. I wouldn't have released my book. I wouldn't be employed in my own business. So all of these things that are just fantastic, which others aim to do, I've been able to achieve. And it wouldn't have happened if I was happy with the good. So I gave up the good to go for the great. Those 5.5 years were good. They set up a foundation. There's so many things that I'm grateful for those 5.5 years. But what has followed has been even better. So don't allow your years to be swallowed up. without you creating the greatness that you possess. Don't allow 2 years to become 5. Don't allow 5 years to become 10. And don't ever allow the fact that you've got your head down, you're caught in the rut, and then all of a sudden you poke your head up and 20 years have gone by. And we know what that feels like. We know what that feels like. We've all got this best before date, right? We all have it. We also have an expiry date. And the best before date is that date when we suddenly realise that we can't get the things done that we want to get done. Whether it's travel, whether it's people, whether it's creativity, whether it's writing a book, writing a song, singing a song, becoming a performer, we have a best before date. So don't allow 2 years to become 5, 5 to become 10. And don't stick your head up one day and say, where has my life gone? We've all got this greatness within us. We've all got the same 24 hours a day. We've all got the potential that we possess. Don't lose it. Don't waste it. As always, a big thank you to my team at Think and Grow Business, improving the performance of people in business. We focus in on personal, professional and business growth. Check it out at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Once again, I have written a book. It's called Seriously Simple Stuff to Get You Unstuck. It's available at Amazon and all good online retailers. It's also available as a signed paperback copy at tonycurl.com.au. Don't forget, our sponsor is Totally Builderall. It's an amazing digital marketing package featuring WordPress, featuring web pages, landing pages, all sorts of tools that can enable you to grow your business. Sign up for your free 7-day trial at totallybuilderall.com. Don't ever forget, we've got the Coach Curl Academy that's now available at thecoachcurlacademy.com. Over 70 programs are in there to help you grow your mindset, grow your business, and grow your leadership. It's a fantastic all-in-one place for you to be learning, growing, and stretching. And join the Facebook group. Just do a quick search on Facebook next time you're there for the Coach Curl Academy and send me a join request, and I'll be more than happy to bring you into the team, bring you into our growing community. It would be awesome to see you there. Don't ever forget, where you are today, you are standing stronger, braver, and wiser. And you know what I'm about to say. Don't ever forget the golden rule. And you know what it is. Just don't be an arsehole. I'll see you next week.